Finally, we will also discuss this concept of hibernating myocardium. Okay. In a patient who has chronic stable angina, due to ongoing ischemia, few myocardial cells in the ischemic area might not be contracted. They are alive, but they do not contract. This is called transient contractile dysfunction. Because of this, a part of the ventricle is not contracting and patient has signs of heart failure. Now, the interesting thing about these myocardial cells is if they undergo a revascularization, if you improve the blood flow within hours, within minutes to hours, you will see that these cells start to contract better. And as they contract better and better, the cardiac contractility and the left ventricular function improves, and the patient's heart failure symptoms also improves. So, hibernating myocardium, okay, is a group of myocardial cells which are transiently non-contractile due to ischemia in a patient of chronic stable angina. After revascularization, because of improved contractility in these cells, patient has an improvement in cardiac contractility and heart failure signs. Now, you have to compare hibernating myocardium with a very similar concept which is called stunned myocardium. Both hibernating and stunning of myocardium are examples of transient contractile dysfunction, but stunning of myocardium is seen in a different situation. It is seen after an acute coronary syndrome. So, what is stunned myocardial cells? In a patient of acute coronary syndrome, some myocardial cells stop functioning. That is, they too undergo a transient contractile dysfunction. But the major difference being in stunning of myocardium, even after reperfusion, many of the cells are so damaged that they take some time to repair. Okay, they take some time to repair because these stunned myocardial cells, after an acute coronary syndrome, even after revascularization, they are again not dead cells, but they take some time to restart their contraction. So, after an acute coronary syndrome, even after doing a PCI, some cells might not be contracting normally. They are not dead, but we say that they are stunned. So, the difference between hibernating and stunning of myocardium is the condition where it occurs. You can see that myocardial stunning, if you look at this top row here, you can see that we use the term stunning after PCI in an acute coronary syndrome. If there is a contractile dysfunction, we call it stunning. Hibernating myocardium is before revascularization in chronic stable angina. Remember, both of these are myocardial cells that can come back to normal function after revascularization. But we use the term stunning for acute coronary syndrome after a PCI, and we use the term hibernating myocardium for chronic stable angina before a revascularization. In both conditions, the myocardium is living or viable, but transiently it is not contracting. Okay. So, stunned myocardium has not regained its contractile function, it is repairing the damage, while the hibernating myocardium has lost the contractile function due to reduced blood supply. Stunning of myocardium, you have already done the PCI. It is only after doing a PCI when you see there is a contractile problem that you call it stunning. In case of stunning, you don't need to do anything more. Just wait. Usually, the patient improves spontaneously over days to weeks. Hibernating myocardium, you do a reperfusion, that is, you do a CABG, patient will improve within hours. Okay. How do we know that there is hibernating myocardium? One of the best ways is to use the technetium. When you use the technetium or thallium scans, what you will see is dark areas that improve with rest or vasodilators usually suggest there is hibernating myocardium. In such patients, if you do a revascularization, you will see a definite improvement in their contractility. In stunning of myocardium, you don't need to do anything, just wait because the PCI is already done. You're waiting for the patient to improve spontaneously. So, if I were to summarize, in chronic stable angina, right, we have discussed how to define chronic stable angina, that is the three parts that we the classical nature of pain, the duration of pain, and the aggravating and relieving factors should be there. If you have all three of them positive, it is typical angina. If only two are positive, it is atypical. If only one, it is probably non-anginal. Using that, the age of the patient and gender of the patient, you can calculate a pre-test probability. In patients who have high pre-test probability, go for an angiography. If they have very low pre-test probability, less than 15, no need. Between 15 to 85%, you do what is called non-invasive testing. We have discussed the various types, especially treadmill test. Please go through those videos. If you are having very high probability, more than 85% of having ischemic heart disease, or between 15 to 85% with non-invasive testing saying that you are likely to have chronic stable angina, or if you are planning for another surgery, or if you have had a cardiac arrest and having symptoms of chronic stable angina, patient should undergo an angiography. While the patient is undergoing an angiography, never forget that the most important cornerstone of management of chronic stable angina is diet, lifestyle modifications, and optimal medical therapy. In optimal medical therapy, we will have drugs that can prevent an acute coronary syndrome, reduce the risk factors, and reduce angina. If your patients are not improved on optimal medical therapy or have any of the features that I suggested earlier, you need to go for an angiography. After doing an angiography, you will see what is the region that is blocked, what are the number of arteries that are blocked, and you can choose whether to go for a CABG or a PCI, that is revascularization. CABG is preferred, especially because most of these patients will have multiple blocks, and it can involve the left main and might even have signs of heart failure. In such people, when you undergo a CABG, you will see that some patients will really benefit with the CABG, and those are those who have hibernating myocardium. Right? So that is a wrap of your chronic stable angina. Until the next time, I would advise you to have a look at these chapters in your Harrison's textbook of internal medicine. Use this as a framework to read these chapters on chronic stable angina, NST elevation, acute coronary syndrome, as well as ST elevation MI. Once you go through these chapters, if you have any doubts, you can contact me on the number that is available on our website. Right? And till the next time, happy reading.